So the first question on ratio, in the ratio 1 to 4, you need to remember the following steps. You need to add together the terms of the ratio first of all. So 1 add 4, which is 5. The next thing you need to do, and again remember this is a calculator, don't try and do this without a calculator, is do the money, so 80 quid, divided by that answer that you just got from step 1. So 80 quid divided by 5 gives me an answer of £16, and this is the answer for one part of the ratio. Now your ratio, as you've already said here, we've already highlighted, is 1 part to 4 parts. So I need to do 1 multiplied by £16 from the calculation I've just done up above, and then the ratio dots, and then 4 multiplied by £16 as well. And again, both of these are going into my calculator, so I can maybe do the first one in my head. 16, and the other one would be £64. The next question here says that a piece of furniture costs £340 and he sells it at a profit of 35%. So what is the selling price? So this is how much it costs. He then has made 35% on top of this. So you need to do 35. Now percent, this percent means over 100, and then you multiply it by 340 or £340 to be precise. Again, that's going into my calculator, and that comes to an answer of £119. So the selling price would be what he already paid for it, and then plus the £119, which gives a total final answer of, what's that, £459. Okay, now it's very, very important you read the question and understand what it's telling you. It's telling you in the diagram below, the number in the circle is made by adding the first number. So this number here, that's the first number. And then 3 times the second number. So 3 times that one there. So 20 times by 3. And then that's 60, then adding the 5 gives me the 65. Right, I get it. Okay, so that's going to help me work out this one. Now, if I was to work backwards from this one to find out the missing number here, if I did 65 take away 5, so 65 take away 5, that would give me 60. Then if I did the opposite of timesing by 3, so I divided that by 3, that would give me 20, which is this answer here. So that's what I want to do with this question here. I need to work backwards. So the first thing I'm going to do is 53 take away 8, and that answer gives me 45. The next thing I want to do is I want to divide that by 3, because this number is 45, but that's been times by 3. So if I'm going to work out what that is, I need to do 45 divided by 3, which is 15. Okay, and I can do a check on that with my calculator as well. 3 times 15 is 45, add on the 8 is 53. The next question says, a sequence of 7 numbers ends with 72. Equal amounts are added. Now, this equal amounts bit is really, really important for letting me do what I'm going to do to solve this question. So, equal amounts are added each time. So, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps. So, I need to work out the difference between the first and the last terms. So, 72 take away 7 gives me 65, and because I had 5 jumps, I need to divide that by 5 to get the equal steps, and that goes into my calculator and tells me it is 13. So that means I'm adding 13 each time. Okay, now I would definitely check that in my calculator and see if that's true. So this is going to give me 20, 33, 46, 59, and then 59 add 13 is 72. The next question, now be very careful with this. It says a train takes 3 hours and 30 minutes to travel a distance of 168 miles. Calculate the average speed of the train. So you should be thinking of your distance, speed, time triangle. So that is distance is speed and time. So if I'm to work out the speed, I'd cover up the S, which leaves me with d over t, and I would do speed equals distance over time. So my distance is 168 miles, but my time is not 3.3 or 3.30. My time is in hours, and that is in hours and minutes. 30 minutes is the same as half an hour, so that is 3.5 hours. Now, I said at the start, you'll have to be very careful of these questions. They always try and put this trick in. If they don't do 30 minutes, they'll do 15 minutes, which is quarter of an hour, so 0.25, or 45 minutes, so 0.75. So my answer is going to be 168 miles. So 168 divided by that 3.5, and that's going into my calculator, which gives me an answer of 48, so that would be miles per hour. Okay, to answer this question, not going to go much further without drawing an XY table. So the first thing we do is our X, and I always like to put in the formula. You don't have to do this, but I like to do it, which is 10y minus 3x. And I tend to always use the same three numbers as long as I can plot them. I tend to use 1, 2, and 3. But I may need to go ahead and use some others. Now, bear in mind you have a calculator for this, so stick this into your calculator. We know how to substitute each of these. You just change the letter for open brackets. Okay, now because the x here is 1, this is 3 lots of x, so I'm going to sub in 1. Putting that through my calculator gives me the answer of 7. Again, here, x has changed. X is no longer 1, it's now 2. So all I'm doing is sticking in 2 into that, and that gives me the answer 4. And then finally, because x here quite clearly is 3, I'm going to put in 3 by there, and that gives me an answer of 1. The next thing I'm going to do is plot those coordinates as long as I can plot them. So 1 on the x-axis, 7 on the y. So 1 and 7 goes there. Then 2 and 4, so that goes there. And then 3 and 1, so I could plot all of them. Now, my line isn't going to look as good as yours, so let me try and plot that now while it's on pause, and I'll see if I can make it look any good. And there we go. You would have drawn that line just by using your ruler. Now, that has pleased me in a number of ways, because it can go through all 3 points. If it doesn't go through all 3 points that I plotted, I've done something wrong up by here. Also, look what value it goes through here. It goes through 10, and the number is 10 there. That's not a coincidence. Whatever your number without the x is, that should be where it cuts the y-axis. Okay then, so this question here is showing me some patterns, and it's telling me the numbers. So in this first one here, you can see I'm adding like a triangle onto each of these. It says number of triangles, number of sticks, and spotting the pattern there, I can see that each of these is going up by 2 every time. So it stands to reason that this one must be 11 if I add 2 onto 9. The next bit here, it says for 10. Now, I could carry on doing what I'm doing here, but I would try and do something that's a bit quicker than adding 2, adding 2, adding 2. And for me, that would be working out what my nth term is. Now, because I'm going up in 2s, we call that 2n. Okay, so that's this going up in 2s here, 2n. Now, if I was to work out the number that went before 3, it would be 1. What sort of 1? Positive 1. So this is 2n plus 1. All I need to do now is change the n to open brackets, so that 2 stays there, that plus 1 stays there, and I need to sub in the number here, 10, into the brackets, and I can tell you that the answer then would be 21. It's not the only way to do it, but for me it's a bit quicker, especially if this number was worse than 10, say it was 20 or say 100, then you'd need to do something like this. Okay, for the next one here, number of triangles. Well, what I'm doing is just basically rewriting out this nth term here. So it's become very, very useful that I did this first of all. So because this is going up in 2s, that means it is similar to the 2 times table. So we'd say number of triangles, I would times by 2. And then that would give me 2, and then I'd add on the 1 here. So this is just a glorified version of my nth term, so it's very useful knowing my nth term to help me answer what this question here was. Okay, now this question here, sometimes people get confused. When it says by eye drawing a line of best fit, it doesn't mean that you don't use a ruler. You must use a ruler with this question. So let me try and draw that quickly now. It may go wrong though, let's have a look. So if I was to draw a line through here, now your line, it needs to go somewhere in between the points here so that there's about roughly the same amount of points either side. So your ruler should be doing something like this, and I'm reasonably happy with that as well now. So in terms of what I've got here, it does not need to go through this bit here. That is a common misconception. It's fine for it to hit by there. Okay, you do need to roughly follow the trend of the data. So here, you can see these points all by here. They need to carry on going up here. I predict that those points would carry on up by here if I was to carry on plotting them, and down here similarly. Then roughly 1, 2, 3 this side, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll ignore that one as it's on the line. About the same amount of points each side of the line. Okay, so that is how I get that one there. So I don't really need any line for that. I've done it. I've plotted. Okay. So I'm just going to write that there, just so you know we don't actually need to do anything. I've plotted it on the graph. Now this question is wrong, or this answer is wrong. It says Joseph says the first person measured is the shortest. Explain why this may not be true. Okay, well, all of these dots, look at them. Do any of them have anything that tells you which one was plotted first? All we know is the one that's hidden by the line there was just the shortest person. That we don't know he was the first one who's plotted. Okay, so the reason why I know that is because all points look the same. All points look the same. So we cannot tell which one was plotted first or last, for that matter. Okay, solving equations. So we've done this recently in class. Happy days. Pleased with this. So 25 times 3. Now remember, you've got your calculator if you need it. And then 25 times 8, which is 200. Sign in the middle. So that's a minus, so this must be a minus. And then that is equal to 100. Okay, so I'm going to do the arrow method. You can use whichever method you like though. Minus 200, so I'm going to add 200 to each side. So I'm going to get 75x is equal to 300. And then I am going to divide both sides by 75 because that is the number in front of x. And that should give me an answer of x equaling 4. If you did this other way, it is massively important that you state x equals 4. If you just write down 4, you can get any of those 3 marks at all. You must state what it is you're doing. Next one, factorise means put into brackets. So I'm looking for the highest common factor, i.e. the biggest number that goes into both those. And it's not just a number, it could be a letter. And it is actually. Look, there's 2 x's here. So I know that an x must go outside. Because this doesn't have a power here, then it's never going to be bigger than x, okay? But say for the one to this question here, say that was x to the power 5, it'd actually be x squared that goes into both those, but it's not, so I'll get rid of those 2. But it could be that that happens. And then 2 quite clearly goes into both those, they're both even. 3 actually goes into both of them as well. And if 2 and 3 go into something, that means 6 goes into it as well, because 2 times 3 is 6, okay? So I must have the 6 outside there. Brackets. So what times by 6x makes 6x squared? And the answer is x. And then minus, because it's a minus sign there. What times by 6x makes 18x? And the answer is 3. Next one, which is an inequality, which is a glorified version of basically what we had up here. No difference at all. So arrow down there, inequality sign. Looking for the smallest x, that's 2x. You take it off each side. So we're going to get 2x is less than 13. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Sorry, inequality sign there. And then that is going to give me x is less than, I'm just going to leave it as 13 over 2. Now you do have a calculator, so you could write it into your calculator if you want. You could say x is less than 6.5, but both of these answers, this one here and this one here, will get you the full 2 marks. One of our C grade questions of the week, so we already know how to complete these. So this is your midpoint column, and we shade out underneath it. Now remember, you must add these together and divide by 2 if you're unsure. So 1 add 5 divided by 2. Now 1 add 5, that's 6. Again, use your calculator to do this. You don't have to do it in your head. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And it's maybe not so obvious that that is the midpoint, okay? Same rules here. 6 add 10 is 16. Divide that by 2 is 8. And then last but not least, Just try and make this colour look a bit better. 11 plus 15 divided by 2. 11 plus 15 is 26, and then divided by 2 is 13. Okay, so just make sure you are getting the right midpoints there. You also make a column here called midpoint times frequency. So that's 3 times 12, which is 36. Some people like to go and put time signs in between here. You can if you want. It doesn't make it wrong, doesn't make it better, but it sort of reminds you what you're doing by here. And then 13 times 8, that's going into the calculator. I think it's 104, but don't want to be wrong. Yep, 104. And then my answer now the next thing that I want to do is I want to work out what the total number of people here were. Now it should, sorry, let me make that a bit better, should tell me here 50 phone calls, so I know that should add to 50, but check on your calculator. And yep, I just checked, it does. And then I want to work out the total number of people, so that's all of these here. So then again, that's going into a calculator. So 104 plus 240 plus 36 is 380. So my answer now is going to be, for the mean, is going to be this column here, the 380 divided by the 50. Okay, so 380 divided by 50, and that answer is 7.6. Okay, now just check, does that answer make sense? If it doesn't make sense, then don't write it down. 1 was the least, 15 was the most, so 7.6 is somewhere in the middle of these two here. I'm happy with that answer. Okay, and so this question here says, in the diagram, AD is 6, so I'm just reading off down here, sorry. AB is 8 and DF is 7. Calculate the length of the diagonal on the rectangle DBHF. So what is DBHF? Well, do what it says. Go from D to B to H to F. So it's this one here. So it wants to know what all of this line here is from D to H, the length of that diagonal there. Okay, so to do that, I want to use Pythagoras' theorem. I'm going to draw in what it wants me to have, okay? And it's very similar to this line DC. It's a little bit confusing that they sort of cross over like here. Okay, now that is quite clearly a right angle triangle here, as is, I'm going to draw this one up by here, that thing there, that's quite clearly a right angle triangle there as well for this thing here. Now why that is useful for us is because it will find out this length here, which is also this length here, and then I've got two sides of a right angle triangle, so I can use Pythagoras to work out the blue dotted line. Okay, so I'm going to work out this one here. Now this one is the hypotenuse of the most obvious triangle, rectangle that you can see, this one here. So I'm going to call that H for now. Okay. Now I like to use the saying a squared plus b squared equals h squared, but you may use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You may use x squared plus y squared equals z squared. It's up to you to use whichever one you like to use. So a and b, it doesn't matter which way round they are. It could be 6, could be 8, could be 8, could be 6, as long as your hypotenuse is the one on its own. So 6 squared plus 8 squared equals h squared. Now that is going into my calculator. You just literally type that into your calculator and it will tell you it's 100. So 100 equals h squared. Now to get rid of this squared here, I'm going to square root both sides. So the square root of 100 is 10, and then squared and then square rooted is gone. That's the reason why we do it. Okay, so that is 10 centimetres. That means this is also 10 centimetres. So now to work out the blue dotted line, I have another h here, another hypotenuse. So I'm going to say a squared plus b squared equals h squared again. But please do not confuse the numbers from here, okay? Strictly speaking, because I've already used these letters once here, probably shouldn't do that again. However, it won't stop you getting the right answer and it won't penalise you any marks. So that will give me 7 squared plus 10 squared equals h squared. Again, this is going into my calculator. It will give me 149 equals h. Okay, so I'm just going to write a bit more down here. So 149 equals h again. H squared, sorry, I haven't got rid of the squared yet. And then I'm going to get rid of the squared by square rooting both sides. And I'm going to put that one into my calculator. So square root of 149, it'll be just over 12. 12.2. and that would be to 1 decimal place, and that would also be in centimetres. Okay, so read the question, make sure you're happy with what it's telling us. It tells us about he's in a shop where he stocks shelves or works in checkouts. Probability that he works in the checkout is 0.6. Now, that's this option here. All probabilities must add to 1. So effectively what you want to put into your calculator, if you are unsure, is 1 take away 0.6. Okay, and that is 0.4. Similarly here, because I know that's 0.3, if I do 1 take away 0.3, that will tell me this option here. 0.7. Okay, and that means I can go and put in that information here and here as well. So 0.7 on the top one, 0.3 on the bottom one. Okay, now you must multiply between these branches here. You want to imagine there's a big time sign in between the branches. Okay, to make it not look so messy, I'm going to get rid of those, but we times in between branches. So if I'm to work out the chances that he works on the checkout and then leaves early, I would do 0.6 times 0.7 into my calculator, and that would give me an answer of 0.42. Okay. Similarly here, 0.6 multiplied by 0.3, that would give me an answer of 0.18. This one here, this 0.4 times by 0.7 gives an answer of 0.28. And finally, 0.4 times by, didn't write that 0.3 in there, times 0.3 would give an answer of 0.12. Now, a very easy way to check it if you're going along the right lines is to try adding up all those probabilities. And you should find, when you put it into your calculator, they add 1. That's great news because all probabilities add up to 1. If it didn't, something has gone wrong somewhere. Now, the next bit says calculate the probability that Graham works on the checkout and has a late lunch. So he works on the checkout and has a late lunch. I've already done the working out for it as well. So that would be 0.6 times 0.3 is equal to 0.18. You don't necessarily need to do this working here. I like to do it personally, because it's already answered this question here. It could say, what are the chances that he has a late lunch either way? And then it would be 0.12, add the 0.18. Okay, that's why I like to do it, but some will argue that it was a waste of time doing it by here. Okay, in trial and improvement, it is very, very important you set up a really nice, neat table for this. If you set your table up, you'll be able to do the majority of this question, or starting to get the majority of the marks, because it will be familiar. We'll do a lot of work on this in class at some stage. So if I try and draw a line in by here, we try it there, and can move that across, yeah. And then if I draw another line in by here. Now, when I'm drawing this, I'm making sure that I have a really big middle column here. To be honest, this bit here and here, like either side here and here, they don't need to be very big, okay? Now, in terms of what I'm told, this is always going to be x equals, this is always going to be this thing up here, so 5x cubed minus 82x minus 45, and the answer I'm supposed to get every time is 0, okay? And then finally, this one here is going to be my comment, okay? So, I am told what numbers to start off with. It even tells me what numbers to start off with. It says start off with 4 and 5. Start off with 4 and 5 because you get a mark as soon as you sub them in. All you have to do to get your mark is change the x to open brackets. That's all you have to do, okay? Well, nearly all you have to do. Now, I know it's a bit of a pain in the backside writing this out the whole time. When we're doing questions on class, yes, it's going to be annoying to write out every time. In the exam, it will only come up once. Make sure you take your time. Make sure you're writing all these answers. In this open bracket here and here, I'm going to put in the answer 4 because I said x was 4. So, putting that into my calculator, 5 open brackets 4 cubed minus 82 brackets 4 minus 45. Make sure you're doing this with me. Make sure you're getting the same answers as me. If needs be, pause the video and just check you're getting the right answers, okay, before you see them from me. I got minus 53 to begin with here. Now, I was supposed to get 0. So that is too low. It's under 0, too low. Okay? Now, I do not press on. I do not press AC on my calculator. I press the replay button and go and change the 4s. So delete them and change them to 5s. That will make my time, or it'll save me a lot of time in the exam. Now, this gives 170, so that is too high. That's much higher than 0 now. Okay? Now, that gets me my first mark, just subbing in the numbers they tell me. Now, I could go blind and just say, right, method that will definitely work, it will definitely get there eventually, is going bang in the middle of these two. But if you look at these solutions here, they're obviously, one is a lot closer to 0 than this one. Okay? So I'm going to try and use a little bit of logic here and go 4.3. Okay? Oh, by here, I subbed in 5 and 5 as well. Now, what you must do here, you must not go any further than 1 decimal place. In fact, I meant to bring out a really, really important bit about this. This 1 dp here, you're really going to go to 2 decimal places. Okay? Oh, let me try writing that again. But you only go to 2 dp to check once. Okay? You do not go more than 2 dp. So that means we're just going to go in 1 dps at the moment. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is go back to 5 brackets cubed minus 82 brackets minus 45, and I'm going to get 4.3, then 4.3 again, and I've got really, really close to it. Okay, so I put in 4.3 here and 4.3 in here, and my answer was minus 0.065. Now that is only just too low, but too low nonetheless because it's a minus. Do not go 4.35 or 4.31. You go in consecutive numbers to this 1 decimal place. So that means you're going in the counting numbers, so like 4.4, 4.5, 4.6 if needs be. I would have thought the next one will get there. Okay, so 4.4. Again, I know it's tiresome, but you must write out what you're putting into your calculator to get this answer. So 4.4 going in here and here. So 4.4 and 4.4 gives me an answer of 20.12, which is too high. Okay. Now, basically what we have found out, there's a solution between 4 and 5, done. We then subbed in 4.3 because we knew it had to be in between 4 and 5. I didn't choose 4.5 because I said this answer is closer to 0 than this answer. So I tried 4.3 and that was really close to 0 but still too low, and then this one's too high. So it now must be between these two here. This is a key that you're looking for, too low, too high with consecutive numbers. So I need to work out whether it's this answer here or this answer here. Now I think it's quite obvious that it probably is going to be x equals 4.3 because this answer here is obviously much closer to 0 than this answer. However, if you do that, you will not gain any more marks. This is how you do it. We've worked out that 4.3 gave us an answer which was too low. Okay, too low. So we said try a bigger number. So we've tried 4.4 and that is too high. So we're saying try a smaller number. So the only numbers now lie in between 4.3 and 4.4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this number bang in the middle, okay, or this number line bang in the middle, which is 4.35, okay. By subbing in 4.35, I'm then going. So now I'm going to sub back into this thing here. So putting in 4.35 there. Now when you put that into your calculator, you should find your answer is about 9.86 something, which is too high. Okay, so what that has told me is it's told me this number here, when I subbed in 4.35, it was too high, so I need to try a smaller number. So that is telling me to choose that one to 1 decimal place. Okay, where the marks come in here, too low, too high, with the numbers they said, 1 mark. Too low, too high, with consecutive 1 decimal place numbers. So 3 and 4, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, whatever. 1 mark for going in the middle of these two numbers, and then 1 mark for choosing the correct one.